Welcome to the stories we weren't supposed to tell. This is a survivor-led space where we speak honestly about abuse, healing, and what it really takes to rebuild your life. This is not a substitute for therapy, and we are not giving medical advice. Please take what resonates, leave what doesn't, and take care of yourself while listening. Today's episode contains discussions of childhood abuse, family trauma, and psychological manipulation. We will not share graphic details. We will be speaking openly about patterns that impact survivors long term. Today, we're doing something different. If you listen to Amber's story, this is where we break it down. Because what she experienced wasn't just a difficult childhood. It wasn't just family drama. It was manipulation. The kind that starts so young you don't even realize it's happening. The kind that teaches you fear instead of safety, confusion instead of clarity, and survival instead of self-worth. In this episode, we're pulling back the curtain on the patterns in Amber's story: fear-based control, emotional invalidation, parentification, gaslighting, triangulation, and the slow conditioning that made all of it feel normal. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it, and that's where the healing starts. If you haven't listened to Amber's episode, Mother Knows Best, go back and listen to it now, and come back to this. We'll wait for you. All right. So, this one, you guys listened to Amber's episode, right?
Yep.
What'd you guys think?
I don't even have words, honestly. I don't even have words. Like I can't even fathom treating my children like that.
Right?
And the hatred that she just spewed at her
Mm-hmm.
is beyond my comprehension.
I think one thing in Amber's story for sure was fear-based control. And I think a lot of children in the 90s had this fear-based control upbringing. But her mother took it to a whole nother level.
Yes.
You know, she said if everything wasn't perfect, she would have high anxiety because she knew at that point that is when she would be bullied the most. Her whole story is almost fear-based control because it was like, if you are not going to conform and do what I want you to do to make me feel important in my life, I'm going to make sure there's consequences.
Yeah.
Like your life will not be peaceful.
Yeah.
And that started when she was really, really young. There was multiple different things that she said that was just crazy to me. Like her mom didn't have any friends and she didn't want to tell her parents what was going on with that really abusive man that was in her life. And she literally was going to the strip club at, what did she say? It was young.
13? Was it even 13?
I think it was like 10.
Because she picked her up for a friend's house.
She was
to the strip club with her, and then left her in the car.
Yeah, and went in there to find her stepdad, which her stepdad, as she explained, was a terrorist.
Yeah.
Horrible person that did horrific things to this poor little girl.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine. And the fact that she has like so much of it blacked out.
Well, the fact that the therapist even said, maybe that one's better left untouched.
Yeah.
That's pretty huge because they don't leave things untouched very often when they go through therapy. Usually they turn all the stones
to try to figure it out.
But that's what got me, for sure.
One thing, because Amber was my very first interview, you guys.
Yeah.
She was my very first one. The reason I picked Amber was, for one, I have a pretty good relationship with Amber. We're not best friends or anything like that, but me and her husband have had like really deep conversations from time to time. And I feel comfortable with her. She feels comfortable with me. So it was kind of an awesome thing when she was like, hey, I have an abuse story. And I was like, fuck yeah. I mean, no, that's awful. But like, tell me more, because it would be awesome if I could interview you because we're comfortable. So I was happy about that, but sad that she had a story. Do you guys have anything out of the episode that was fear-based that you would want to point out that you think that maybe people wouldn't have noticed?
Oh, I'm sure everybody noticed, but the one that got me is when she said, you just basically make yourself small because, you knew it was coming, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that triggered it for her was the smell.
Mm-hmm.
She said when she'd smell, all of a sudden she's walking that line and being really good because she knew he was already edgy.
Yeah. The marijuana smell.
Yeah.
How she said that would make her physically ill. Her sister and her mom on her wedding. Yeah. They ganged up because they were trying to control the situation by spreading that awful rumor to try to be able to get people to think that she wasn't independent and she wasn't making the right decision. So they looked like they were the stronger ones. That's how I felt in that one.
Yeah. And same as soon as she was successful, even by herself when she's trying to leave, and then she's still sabotaging everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The next one that was used was emotional invalidation. This is also something that I want to say was a 90s thing. I was raised like children are supposed to be seen, not heard, almost. But I was still loud. My parents still watched me do my dances. Like like I was never like hidden.
Right.
But if I was told to be quiet and go to my room, I was quiet and went to my room.
Right.
And it was all the times that you never really expressed much emotion in the 90s. Like, I don't think any of us was taught how to express our emotions.
No, absolutely not. 'Cause if I was to cry, it was always, don't do that. If you want to cry, go to your room. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And you're right. Like I was just taught that emotion was just not to be shown. You're not overly lovey. You're not overly sad. You just exist.
It was almost like kids weren't allowed to have emotions.
Yeah.
Or if you're going to cry, I'll give you something to cry about.
Yep.
You know?
Famous line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You fall and hit your knee, just throw some dirt and spit on it and shut up. Like, can you walk on it?
Yeah.
You're fine.
Yeah.
But at the same time, her mom, just like the other one, her mom took this to a whole nother level. And it was always that she felt too much. I know she had mentioned that she was a big feeler. And then if ever she had these big feelings, she was always told, like, you're too much. Why you're so emotional? And that is the same thing as trying to show somebody that their feelings aren't valid is a horrible manipulation for especially little kids. Can you imagine? I know for me going through it as an adult, you go into this really dark place, but how do you do it? How does your brain even comprehend it when you're that little? And not only that, how do you find your way out of it?
Yeah.
Like you're just stuck. She said, even to this day, one of her hardest things is boundaries and holding them and how anxious she gets. And I think part of that was she was taught that her emotions aren't valid. So when you're taught that your emotions aren't valid, how do you even begin to set up boundaries or find a healthy way to say this is for me or this isn't for me if you're not given a voice,
Yeah. And if she's told she's too much or her emotions are too much, then she's going to sit there and second guess herself her whole life about whether or not it's too big of a feeling. Is she feeling the correct amount towards this too?
Another thing she did say, and it's not even on the recording, because some of the stuff that I had taken out, because some of our stuff got way too personal, way too deep, but she thinks she's so ugly. She thinks she's so dumb. She thinks nobody loves her to this day. And she's like, I know deep down that it's not true, but I still have my mom nagging at me and telling me this stuff. And I'm 40 years old now. And I'm still not comfortable in my own skin.
Yeah. That doesn't leave. It's one thing when a stranger says it about you, but when it's your own mom, it's when you're supposed to be able to trust with everything and believe everything they say, I can't imagine.
Yeah, you do. And I think that's a big thing of something that will be probably our hardest thing to heal from is just that. Another thing too, we talked about this a little bit, her mom taking her to the strip club at a young age and how she said she had to be the caregiver quite early in her life because she felt bad for her mom, felt like her mom needed her. And it's just crazy to me to think because you hear these stories all the time of these parents that for one, they push that kid into the caregiver role. which is part of keeping them hooked and keeping them, mom can't do this without me. Mom can't live without me. Mom can't this, mom can't that. But at the same time, they have this internal thing where they don't see their children separate from their own lives either. So it becomes like, this child is my life. And you think that sounds like loving or healthy, but it's really not, because you're taking this child and everything, you have to be in their light for everything, even as when they're an adult. And I think that was a huge thing with her mom, is her mom wanted to be in Amber's spotlight, but wanted everybody to think that it was all because of her.
Yeah.
And it wasn't because of Amber and all the things that Amber had done.
Right.
So that's kind of two forms of abuse in the same thing. But you guys have like anything you want to add about the parentification?
Well, and just like you said, there's multiple times where her story is, the stepdad would be, he would be upset with the mom. And it was like she went to Amber. The mom went to Amber because she had no friends. And so Amber just felt like she was, like you said, like she was stuck.
Mm-hmm.
She just felt like she had to be there because her mom was an emotional wreck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then when she got older and she wanted to move out, and her mom was freaking out. How are you going to afford nursing school? How are you going to do this? How are you going to do that? You need me. You can't leave me.
Yeah.
And then with the wedding, taking over the wedding, and then trying to destroy her marriage, and then trying to get the kids taken away.
Yeah.
And, you can just keep going and going and going, which is part of the parent trying to have that child's whole life be entwined with their life.
Yeah, because she literally called CPS on her own daughter only because she wouldn't come home in the divorce.
Yeah. That's crazy.
That is
I'm like,
crazy.
oh
And
my
then
gosh.
unsuccessful and has the grandpa call.
Mm-hmm.
So there's 2 calls.
I have to show you guys who her grandpa is. You're going to shit your pants. He is famous.
He's famous?
He is famous.
Oh
and I was like, holy shit. This poor little girl. I think of Amber and this poor little girl, and I just want to give her the biggest hug ever.
Yeah.
And that's another thing I was going to bring up. The fact that when I asked her, when you were young, did you think everybody's houses was like this?
Oh my gosh, yes.
And she's like, yeah. I thought everybody's life was chaotic. I thought everybody's life was like this.
Yeah.
I guess it's nice to be in the land of delusion, and not meaning to. It wasn't her fault that she was like that. But I mean, it's crazy. She didn't realize it until she was married. She didn't realize that until she was married, and her husband and mother-in-law was like,
This ain't right.
are you seeing this? Do you see what's going on? People don't treat people like this. So that was another thing that was a good thing, that she met her mother-in-law.
Mm-hmm.
So Amber, she was gaslit her whole life. I don't think she ever probably went a day without being gaslit.
No, because she remembers from a very young age. I think she said she was maybe 5 is when she started noticing. Or no, she was a little bit older because it was when she had the picture, when they birthed and took a picture of her when her grandma bought her that training bra and underwear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She had body dysmorphia then, and that was a very young age.
Yeah. She was very little. Because she said, what, 9?
Is that what it was?
Oh.
I mean, that explains why she would not have noticed anything up until the point when she was out of it and married, and the mother-in-law and the husband pointed it out. Because if it's been the same since as far back as you can remember, that's just how it is.
And I bet she was just thinking stuff like, oh, well, my mind's fuzzy. I don't have a good memory and all this stuff. And she had a perfect memory.
Yeah.
But,
yep.
Yeah. Even when she was talking about when she was adult and how she was still getting gaslit forever. And she said that she didn't even realize how much that was going on until 8 years ago, I think she said in her interview. It wasn't until about 8 years ago when she finally was like, no.
Yeah.
No, this is what happened.
Yep.
And she said even she had to point out to her grandma. Still, she has to point out to her grandma.
Yep. I do remember that part.
Where she's like, no, she is completely twisted this story up for you. Like, that is not what happened. So, you ever wonder if they really see the story that way? Because I've read before that they twist it in their mind so much that they really think that's what happened.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I have heard of cases where people pass lie detector tests because they believe in their lies so much.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got to be I don't know. It's got to be where they tell it so much that it just it's just like manifesting. If you say something, you put it out in the world, it's there, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like they manifest it into reality.
And did you know, when you think back on a memory, with me and my nerd alert stuff, but when you go back and think about a memory, you're not going back to that present time in the memory. You're going back to the last time you thought about that memory. If me and you are sitting here talking about a softball game we had or whatever, and this was a couple years ago, and maybe we had too much to drink, maybe we didn't, and so we're both filling in different parts of that story for each other.
Right.
So now what was once my truth is now mixed in with your truth,
Ah.
and now that memory's been changed. So I think that's 100% what happens.
Yeah.
You know? And so I think that is another way of why people get gaslit so easily, is because, you're going back, and after somebody has told you, oh, you overreacted. You were the one yelling at me. You're the one that touched my arm. If you wouldn't have said this or looked at that way, and totally blame shifted and gaslit everything, you're gonna eventually be like, huh,
Yeah.
really?
Yep.
So, oh.
Yeah. It's just like with my ex-husband. Every time you caught him cheating, somehow it was my fault.
Mhm.
It was my fault. It was my fault I was in the phone checking on him. It was my fault that I wasn't home that day.
Mhm.
It was always, and then you're left sitting there going, how did that just happen? How did that just turn around to become my fault?
Mhm.
Because I had this all planned. I had it all planned. Now it's my fault again.
Mhm.
So it's crazy.
So yeah, that's not just, so we got blame shifting, gaslighting, rewriting the whole narrative, because manipulators are so good at that. Another thing I want to bring up is how Amber described growing up believing she had to be perfect to be safe. Like,
Yes.
let that sink in for a minute. She had to make sure she had good grades, obedience, like her appearance was good, her behavior was good. So she knew the only way that she was going to feel loved and be accepted was if she was perfect. How exhausting.
So exhausting, especially for a little girl.
Like, I couldn't even imagine that. How do you do that? How, with all the stuff that you're going through, anyways, with growing up, developing, how do you be perfect? And you can't be perfect when you're little. That's the awful thing. Like, you can't be perfect.
No, there is no perfection, Nobody's perfect.
No. And I have, like, for me, maybe I'm just crazy, but my kids, with my older kids, I was a helicopter mom more than I am now. But now I'm so like, the kids need to learn. And the only way they learn is if they mess up.
Yeah.
So I can sit and talk to them till I'm blue in the face, but until they go out and experience it, I'm a dumbass.
Yeah.
And I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
So I don't want my kids to be perfect, is kind of my point I'm making.
Yeah.
I want my kids to make mistakes, and I want my kids to know that they can come to me and be like, Mom, I screwed up. Mom, I did this, or Mom, I did that.
I constantly say all the time, I want my kids to learn now what I learned between the ages of like 19 to 25. I learned a lot. I was very sheltered at home. There was a lot that I learned in that age, and I want my kids to learn that before they leave my house.
Right?
I don't want it's almost like going back to the 90s. It's almost like they had shelter syndrome. They sheltered you so much from everything in life that let you free. And it was like, fly, little bird.
Yeah.
And we flew right into chaos.
Right. We flew right into a windshield. So another thing we kind of talked about, how she just never felt like she ever looks good, still to this day. And she has a hard time loving herself. And how they hurried and snapped that picture of her when she was in her training bra and her panties. And I think she said something about being called an ugly duckling.
Ugly duckling. Yep, they called her the ugly duckling because she was oddly when she was little.
Which, how horrible. Like, I call Faye Big Booty Judy, but I don't, that's not calling her ugly duckling, but she's got a badonkadonk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, it's funny because she talks about her sister and her mom a lot. Now, it kind of sounds like maybe the sister wasn't picked on as much as Amber.
No. So this is what I kind of got from that. Amber talks about in her story about how her mom says she was a product of rape.
Oh, that's right.
The guy had drugged her, raped her. That's how she had lost her virginity. Some guy at church talked her out of getting an abortion.
Yeah.
Of course, Amber finds all this out when she was like 13.
13. Yeah. Yeah.
So you are just finding your identity. You're just trying to figure stuff out. And then you're found out that you weren't wanted.
Yeah.
She said it was almost like her mom was trying to play like she was this hero for having her.
Yes.
And getting that ego boost by saying something so horrific, but she didn't realize how horrific that was to say to a child either.
Yeah, like she was glorifying the story almost.
Yeah. But then she was talking also about the guy that she said, the stepdad that she said was an absolute terrorist. She thought that was her dad until I don't remember what age she said. And she found out that her dad was actually the guy that she thought was her uncle.
Yeah.
The guy who was the terrorist stepdad, that sister was his daughter.
Oh.
So she 100% didn't get abused.
Yeah.
The way that Amber did.
Yep.
And she also said that daughter was just like her dad. Just like her dad. But if you are, I would think, and I don't know for sure, but if you have two horrible narcissistic people in your life and they're not treating you like shit, but they're treating somebody else like shit, would you still pick up the narcissistic traits? Would you just be a narcissist because that's how you think you're supposed to be? Like, would you pick up that? Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah. They're definitely learned traits. And I think there are some genetics behind it. Like you said,
Yeah.
Said she's just like her dad. Well, that makes sense. They're genetically,
yeah,
the same.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I do think it's absolutely learned.
That's another good point.
And you have no idea what kind of gaslighting goes towards the other siblings either. Are they telling them how, from the very young age, they're telling them how horrible the other sibling is. So if the siblings at a very young age hearing how terrible, awful the other sibling is, they're going to grow up thinking they're awful people.
Triangulation, where you're using the other people to manipulate and keep you in check.
When Amber became an adult, all of a sudden, everything was undermined.
Yeah.
As soon as she could go out on her own, it switched to, you can't do that. It was like she was right there in her ear every step of the way. You can't move out on your own. Can't make it without me. You need me. And she did go out on her own. She did make it. Then she was going to get married. Then there was that sabotage and undermining of the wedding. So much of taking over who Amber decided was the bridesmaid.
Yeah.
Maid of honor, right? Because it had to be the sister, because the mom said. And then undermining her with her own kids and the divorce, saying, no, you need to come home. You can't do this without me. I can't. And I guess what gets me the most is she's told she couldn't do it. And the whole time she said, yes, I can. She never gave up.
No, she didn't.
She was determined.
And one thing I thought was really interesting, because she said it was several months after they had separated and going through the divorce process that she even told her mom.
Yeah.
Several months. Like my mom would have known way before I even decided to get a divorce.
Yes.
You know,
My mom would have seen it coming.
Yeah, she would have heard me bawling and calling and whatever. So,
Yep.
6 months later, I thought that was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And because she knew exactly what it was going to be, you need to pack up your stuff and you need to bring the kids home.
Yep.
And she's like, I'm good, Mom. I'm good. I'm good. And her mom would not take that answer.
Nope.
Triangulation, too. That was used a lot throughout her story with of course, with the sister, everything. Like it seemed like whatever her mom could do to stir the pot and use against her, she absolutely would. She used CPS, she used the wedding, she used the pills. Oh, we stole all the pills. I'm going to call the FBI on him.
Yes. And the night of the wedding, saying that he was trying to sleep with the sister.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when they were together that whole night.
They were together. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just making up straight lies.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? Something else. Well, I guess we can, while we're talk about triangulation, smear campaign, the false rumors and stuff that they used about Amber's husband the whole time.
Yeah.
From the jump.
Yes.
They were going to totally destroy this guy.
Yes.
And for what? For loving their sister?
Yeah.
For loving their daughter?
Yeah. Because I'm sure they felt like he took her.
Yeah.
He took her away.
Yeah. And I've never, I get this smear campaign, but at the same time, I'm like, whatever. I think it's the dumbest thing to me because I get it. I don't know. Maybe it's just all the growth I've done because I'm like, I don't care. Say bad stuff about me. I don't care.
Yeah.
Say bad stuff. Tell everybody what a piece of shit I am because the people that matter know that I'm not a piece of shit. So
exactly right.
Like, I don't even care what it says about me anymore to anybody.
Fucking, it's the same with my father-in-law. You know, I haven't even told you the latest with him.
Oh, yeah. Which is
It's
so
taken
crazy.
a lot of years, girl. Because let me tell you, if this was 3 months ago, it would have been a whole different conversation.
I'm like, yeah, a year ago, I'd have been like, please don't say bad things about me anymore. And I'm like, fuck you.
And read every line of what I ever said to this person because maybe I made them mad.
Right?
I'm like, I don't even care.
Yeah, I don't have the energy. I don't have the time. I don't give a shit.
A lot of self-love, honestly. A lot of looking myself in the face, in the mirror, telling myself how much I love myself.
And you know what's so crazy that that's brought up? Because literally, I took it out of the recording, but I told Amber a trick that I did to bring me out of my lowest was, well, it's magic, the glamour magic.
Yeah.
So I believe 100% on glamour magic. And I haven't been doing it lately. I feel like you can see it in my face. I feel like, but I'm also exhausted. Just where you basically get yourself ready every single day, listen to music, talk to yourself in the mirror, affirmations, like anything you can do positively to make you feel good while you're getting ready. Basically is what it is. But one thing that I did tell Amber when she was talking about how she's struggling so bad, still with the self-love and her body, and I told her it's going to sound so stupid, but it works, is just stare at yourself in the eyes for 30 seconds to a minute every day.
Yep.
I mean, like you stare hard at yourself too. And the whole time you're just like, I love you. You're beautiful. You're smart. You're amazing. And I know it sounds so stupid and people are like, I'll tell people and they'll roll their eyes at me sometimes, you know, or whatever. But I'm like, shit, I'm happy as fuck.
Yeah.
And I love myself.
Yeah.
And you know what got me there was staring myself in the eyes.
Yeah.
And telling myself how awesome I was, because I tell you what, when I first started doing it, I was lying to myself.
Yeah.
And now I can't stop with this stuff that I tell myself, you know? I'm like, shit, you're crazy today.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, but that's all right. That's all right. But it works.
It does. I wholeheartedly believe in affirmations. So much so that every day on the way to school, we get driving and we hit a certain spot and I say, Who's ready for some morning affirmations? Me and my 2 kids go through and do morning affirmations.
I love that. I wish I could do that more. I wish I could do that with Faye during the week more before she went to school. Because I think sending your kids out in the world and positive and happy, it makes a big difference.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And I was talking about Faye to that today. Like, people who see the world negatively will always see the world negatively.
Yes.
People who see it positively will always see it positively. And you just have to choose which person you're going to be.
Yep.
And she had no idea what I was talking about because she's 10. And she was like, okay, Mom, can we get a popsicle when we go home? I'm like, yeah, sure.
Yep.
Only if you look at it positive.
Right? The best thing about that, though, is I did the same thing with Dexter about how his words have meaning and they hold energy. And I thought it was in one ear and out the other because he just gets so mad at these stupid video games. I can't do this. I can never do it. Right? So I told him to change his words. Well, he didn't think I was listening, but I could hear him. And he was upstairs and he's like, I can do this. I'm going to win this egg. And sure
Love
enough,
it. He won the egg,
he
didn't
won
he?
the egg.
He won the egg, didn't
He comes downstairs like, Mom, I listened to you and I won. I'm like, yes.
Yeah, they're
Tangent. Sorry.
no, it's fine because I'm going to go on one too. So Faye, you know, like I was telling her the other day, well, this is probably like a month ago, you know, she was talking about just really bad talking about herself and this and that. And, you know, she's being negative. And her little cousin was over at the time, her cousin Promise. And they were just being so mean about each other. So I like busted into the room and I was like, we're not doing this. Come in the bathroom. Come in the bathroom right now. So in the bathroom, and I was like, okay, I want you guys to look at each other and tell me 3 things that you like about your face. Yeah, so they said it. I said, okay, now tell each other 3 things that you like about each other. You know, and we kept going off, and then they're like, oh my gosh, this is so much fun. And I said, well, do you feel like how much happier your heart is right now compared to what it was when you guys were in the room telling each other like how fat you guys are? You guys are 10.
Yeah.
Like, you're not fat. Knock it off. You guys should be talking to each other like this instead. And so, of course, they're like rolling their eyes at me by the, you know, like, oh my gosh, another one of crazy Randon's lectures. And then later on that night, Faye was talking to her on the phone and she goes, no, remember, we have to say positive things about ourselves. And so they started saying positive things to each other on the phone, and like I'm like trying not to shed a tear.
Right.
You know?
Trying to keep it cool.
I'm like, so it is cool. Our kids, the point of the story is our kids do listen. It's just learning to love ourselves, and being true to yourself is the biggest thing, because when you are being true to yourself and you're being exactly the person that you are supposed to be, and I show up the same for Crystal, like I show up the same for you, I show up the same for the guys that work for me, like I'm me, this is who I am. You know, I may be like a little bit more relaxed around certain people because I know them better or whatnot, but like this is me, this is who I am, take it or leave it.
Yeah.
You know? And it's taken me so long because I used to like walk into a room and be worried if everybody liked me. Like, oh, is everybody gonna like me? Now I walk into a room and I wonder if I like them.
Yeah. Me too.
You know, like that's my whole outlook
Opposite. Yep.
is, and I just I wouldn't say picky because I love everybody, but like the people that can come into my space, I'm very picky about that now too.
One thing that I heard that changed my whole outlook on life is there was this pastor that said, he said, there's selfless and there's selfish, but sometimes you have to be selfish to be selfless.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's another one I heard last night that I was like, oh, mind blown over. And I was like, I never thought about that way. And it kind of goes along with the, you know, I walk in the room and I'm like, do I like these people or not? But you know how you try to like overextend yourself and you try to do whatever you can so that way you're likable, people are like you or whatnot. And that's exhausting. And then you're never really your true self and you're never really happy, right? What it said was, You can water fake plants as much as you want, and they're never going to change.
Oh, shit.
I was like, holy crap. When I heard that last night, I was like, ain't that the truth?
Wow. Wow. Yeah, that is a good one.
It's so good. And I think another thing too is I think a lot of people are depressed. I think it's because you're not living in your purpose. Like, I honestly think your soul knows what you're supposed to be doing. And I think you get depressed because you're not doing what your soul's supposed to. You're not doing what's going to make you happy. And a lot of times, like, I don't think people have to go out and be millionaires or foster a bunch of children or nothing like that. We all have different purposes when we come down here, right? So maybe your purpose is to be that best damn boss from 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Maybe you were supposed to be the best at your job ever, and that's what you came down here for.
Yeah.
Because if you're doing something that you truly enjoy,
Right.
then your vibration's higher. You're being authentic, right?
Yeah.
And like people who give people tattoos, they're putting this beautiful art on people.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know how if I'm explaining this very, very good or not, but everybody has their purpose. You have your counselors that are there.
Right.
You know, you have your doctors, you have whatever. And I think if you come down here and you try to fit yourself into this box of what you think everybody else is supposed to do, and survival mode.
Yeah.
You're in survival mode. And like for me, for all those years, working 60 to 70 hours a week.
Yep.
You know, and just coming home and being dead and doing this and doing that and having all the shitty relationships and things like that. And for me, when I had my heart attack and when I like started coming around with my spiritual awakening and my journey,
Mm-hmm.
I think that being almost like channeled into it. Once I figured out where I was going and putting one foot in front of the other, it seemed like I was just almost easily directed to the next thing and almost pulled to the next thing of what I was supposed to be doing. Well, the thing, intermittent reinforcement is probably one of the biggest things that basically anybody who is a manipulator is going to do, because that's what forms that toxic bond. You have that push-pull, so you're getting the serotonin and then the dopamine, and you're getting all of that. And then you're always trying to chase for those happy times.
Yeah.
You're always trying to get back to that point. It's exactly what they do to mess up your nervous system to be trauma bonded. That is the number one thing they do. So you have all those other bits and pieces. You have like the love bombing, you have the shift blaming, gaslighting, you have all those little teeny tiny pieces that they start with to get you hooked, right? If you're talking like a relationship standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
a friendship or a lovers type thing. And then after they get you hooked, they start doing that push pull. And that push pull is where your nervous system, so where you don't know what to do. So you're either in this happy blissful or you're in your fight, flight, or freeze.
Freezing
Right.
fun.
Freeze and fawn, whatever. That's what gets your nervous system hooked to the trauma bond. So yeah, you're correct.
Yeah.
She did it, and she started her from a young age. She didn't have to do love bombing. She didn't have to do the breadcrumbing.
Yeah.
Although she did do it, like, don't get me wrong, because you have to have those little bits and pieces. That's what the push and pull is, basically.
Yeah.
You would hear how she would be like, well, I would get rewarded if I was good. I would not get rewarded if I was bad. You know, I would be in trouble for no reason as well, too, sometimes.
It sounded like the perfection thing came from her grandma. That
Yes.
grandma expected her mom to be perfect.
Mm-hmm. I feel like a lot of times that stuff's just handed down and handed down and handed down and handed down. What would you say out of her whole story? What was something that made your jaw just drop?
The stepdad, her memory of her stepdad, or the lack thereof memory.
what I couldn't believe is when I asked her, tell me about your stepdad. And she's like, he was a terrorist. She didn't even skip a beat
No.
with that answer.
Nope. Nope, she did not. And it proved to be true. Just the little she's talked about him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, well, I mean, she talked about him, but the little amount that she talked about him, he was.
Mm-hmm.
He was exactly what she said.
And you could hear the emotion in her voice.
Yeah.
You could just hear, like, even just the disgust
Yep.
in her voice when she talked about him. And then, poor thing, her mom finds this guy that is just her whole world.
Mhm.
And she married that guy, and that she said she could breathe finally
Yeah.
with the one that she called her dad. How, like that, how do you find somebody who gives you such relief and then have to still cut him off because of the crap that your mom was doing? Because, you know, after the CPS call, she cut them both off.
Yeah.
She cut him off too.
Yep.
She had to.
Uh-huh.
And then he even tried to take the blame and say that he was the one that called. He was the one that came up with a CPS plan. And she's like, no, Dad, I know it wasn't you.
Oh, that's awful.
And then, you know, we talked about that a little bit too, because after anybody who's been in an abusive relationship will say this. Sometimes it's just easier to let him have it.
Yeah.
Than to fight.
Yep.
And I think that was a big thing too, was she said that she did that a lot in her life, was just let her have it. But she knows for sure that's her dad was falling on that sword, as she even put it,
Mm-hmm.
just so he could have some sort of peace.
Yeah. Yeah. There was multiple times through the story that I just, holy crap.
And then the whole thing with her husband, you know, they just wanted to completely destroy him.
Which he put up with a lot.
He did put up with a lot.
Yeah.
And then then she goes through the divorce. Oh, and then the grandpa.
Mm-hmm.
I was not expecting for her to say it was going to be her grandpa.
Me neither.
I was thinking that they were like tracked down the mom or figured out it was the mom. But,
Yeah.
you know, that kind of threw me for a loop. I was like, and when he's like, your mom is poison.
Yeah.
You have to get her out of your life.
Yep.
Could you imagine your grandpa telling you, like, you have to get your mom out of your life?
That is crazy.
I don't think it was even him saying that. I think it was just the betrayal of who could call and say such horrific things.
Right.
I mean, and then find out it was your mom just because you wouldn't come home.
Ugh.
And how many times she's like, I'm good, Mom. I'm not going to uproot my kids for you.
Yeah.
For you to feel better. I'm not doing it. I'm good, Mom.
Yeah.
Like, why would I take them away from their dad? And then how she thought it was her ex-husband.
The ex-husband's girlfriend.
The ex-husband's girlfriend.
Yeah.
But then I guess he almost lost his job over it.
Yeah.
Basically, because he's in law enforcement.
Amber's story wasn't just about what happened to her. It's about what was taught to her. That love had to be earned, that emotions were a problem, that being perfect was the only way to feel safe. And those lessons just don't disappear when childhood ends. They follow you into your relationships, into your adulthood, your self-worth, your identity. But here's the truth. What was normalized for her, and possibly for you, was not normal. What you and her were taught to tolerate, you never should have survived. And once you start seeing those patterns clearly, you get to decide something different. You get to choose boundaries, you get to choose your voice, and you get to choose yourself. If this episode helped you recognize something in your own life, you are not alone. There is support and your story matters. You can call the Child Helpline at 1-800-422-4453, the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233. If calling feels like too much, you can text HOME to 741-741. That's HOME, HOME, to 741-741. If you have a story that needs to be told, this space is for you. You are not crazy, you didn't imagine it, and most importantly, you are not alone. You don't have to be fully healed to share your story. You just have to be ready to be honest. If you'd like to share your story, email us at sunshinefayemedia@gmail.com. That is sunshinefayemedia@gmail.com. Follow the podcast, leave a review, and most importantly, share this with someone who needs it. Next, we're stepping into Ashley's story. She refused to be another statistic. And this one will open your eyes in a completely different way. The book that started all of this, Dance with the Devil, is available now. Thank you for being here and listening, and take care of yourself. Until next time.